Hi everybody, and welcome to our review of Church and the Fourth Estate, a short documentary from the hard-hitting journalists over at Field of Vision and directed by documentary filmmaker Brian Knappenberger. This short is absolutely impeccable in its craft, but carries a story that is not easy to hear, touching on societal relationships with institutions, credibility, and the place of journalism in a world finding it harder and harder to embrace truth. Field of Vision is well known for short documentaries that wield a rare kind of narrative power. The immersive storytelling that they've become famous for is rooted not only in the subject matter itself, but in the unflinching methods they use to tell those stories, never looking away from the painful moments. In that respect, Church and the Fourth Estate is a signature piece of work, embedding itself with the subjects of a story that has pain to spare. Now, we should emphasize at the outset that the stories relayed over the course of the film are harrowing to say the least. That said, the power of those stories and the bravery required to tell them both demand and fully deserve our attention. We are taken into a dark but sadly all too familiar tale of sexual abuse, abuse of power, and cover-ups to protect the reputations of ironically reputable people and organizations, specifically the Boy Scouts of America and the Mormon Church. We follow parallel stories of sexual abuse survivor Adam Steed and journalist Peter Zuckerman as they share a traumatic sequence of events surrounding both the crime and the consequences of exposing it. One of the first things that strikes you about this film is the sense of foreboding it establishes alongside imagery of quintessential, family-friendly, wholesome Americana. We see marching scouts, American flags, and quiet suburbia, all punctuated with clips of home videos and what should be happy family memories. Adam Steed's description of the Boy Scouts and the church essentially being the same thing, representing, quote, the spirit of peace that guides you in your life, is presented alongside a melancholic and ominous score from John Dragonetti that tells you, even if you don't know the premise, that you are about to experience a story of lost innocence. The concept of truth is a very prominent central theme in this film, as you would imagine, but so is the concept of community. One of the things that makes the story so interesting is that these two seemingly virtuous themes are put in direct conflict with one another, with many of the antagonists of the story considering the truth about the crimes committed to be a greater threat than the crimes themselves. That thematic conflict is played out in the story thread involving journalist Peter Zuckerman, who begins to uncover the full extent of the abuse that has been taking place, as both he and the paper he works for become the target of not just those trying to cover their misdeeds, but others who simply do not want to believe it. There is also a journey of not so much recovery, but perhaps catharsis, as the crew embeds itself with Adam Steed as he returns to the scene of the abuse he suffered and begins to seek out others who have been through a similar experience. The events are distilled into a structured and self-contained narrative, while leaving you in no doubt that there will be ongoing consequences of the story you have just experienced. In terms of the filmmaking itself, a shout out has to be given to director of photography Sean Michael Smith, who captures some stunning images in this film. From sprawling landscape and aerial shots to sometimes uncomfortably tight close-ups of the film's subjects, all used masterfully to maximize the immersiveness of the film. As you would expect, this is first-class documentary storytelling, but more importantly, it is a powerful story about our relationship to inconvenient truths and how easy it is for us to sacrifice the standing and often safety of people doing the right thing to maintain a comfortable lie. As I mentioned earlier, this is not an easy watch, but I would say it is an important film to see, and if even a fraction of the bravery on display rubs off on us as viewers, perhaps we'll all be the better for it. So, what did you think of Church and the Fourth Estate? If you haven't seen it yet, then please give it a watch using the link in the description. If you're catching this review on cameolaunch.com/reviews, you can create a free account on our site, which allows you to leave comments as well as receive notifications on new reviews as we post them. If you're catching us on YouTube, then don't forget to subscribe and hit the bell to stay on top of all of our video content. If you want to see more of what we're doing, you can follow us using the handle @CameoLaunch on Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram. You can also subscribe to our newsletter to get a heads up on what's new with our reviews, our podcast, and our online shop. Thanks so much for checking out our review. We'll be back next week with another great short film to recommend, but if you can't wait that long, check out our previous reviews at cameolaunch.com/reviews and on the Cameo Launch Short Film Podcast, which you can find on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, and many more. Thanks again for joining us, and we'll see you next time.